So good morning, everybody, and welcome to this webinar about Spain, specifically the Spanish Golden Visa. My name is Ricardo Ippoliti, and I'm here today with Andres. Andres, good morning. How are you?
Hi, guys.
Thank you for joining us today. So we'll be talking about, the Spanish Golden Visa today, which is a very interesting visa. And the reason why we're here today is also because it appears that there could be some updates, and Andres, you can help me with that as well later during the webinar about possible cancellation of this visa, unfortunately, with the current news that's going on. So obviously we're here today in order to give you some guidance about the functioning of the visa, how the visa works, and especially what you will be getting at the end of this journey. And obviously we'll do this sharing some information on the screen. Okay, so we'll be getting into more specific details. So I'll get into more specific details about the visa and about the way it works and the functioning and everything, but at the same time, I'll have your help, Andres, with more specific details about the type of investments. Okay, so first of all, just very quickly, everything is done through Holborn, obviously. So Holborn is a financial investment advisory firm. It's been operating for many years now. And it's been some years now that Holborn has also the Holborn Pass section, which is focused on citizenship and immigration in general. Why is this? Well, because as the world and the scenario in general changes, what is happening nowadays is that families and people in general are looking at options B, plan B, and obviously there are certain countries and certain governments that give you the option of obtaining a residency, and in some cases even right away citizenship, through specific type of eligible investments. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about Spain. So before I get into more specifics with the PDF, I'd like to share with you some information about Holborn here. So Holborn, this is the website about the assets. Okay, so this is more about your financial investment advisors. But then we've got here the part relating to immigration, as I mentioned before. So this is where you can go on the website and you look at the information, and you can look at the type of investments that we've got. We've got the citizenship by investment, and these are the countries that we have. And we've got the residency by investment as well. And for residency by investment, obviously, the main topic here for today is Spain. Okay, so a Spanish Golden Visa. Spanish Golden Visa was introduced in 2013. We're talking about a visa that ultimately gives you and your family the possibility of getting permanent residency. And at the very end, it is not mandatory, but if you wanted to, you can obtain citizenship as well. We'll get into more specifics about the timeline of events. The most important thing at this stage is to know that for this type of visa, we're not talking about visas that reflect on the skill of the person or the family. So we're not talking about an applicant who has to satisfy certain type of requirements in terms of eligibility. It's rather satisfying the requirement of the investment. Okay, so there's different types of investments that we're talking about, but the making the investment is what makes you eligible to obtain a visa to Spain that can then lead to permanent residency after a number of years. In the meantime, you can come and live in Spain and work in Spain and do whatever you want. And then later on, if you wanted to, you can also aim for citizenship. And in some cases, and Andres, you can help me with this one as well, in some cases, for some countries, we're talking about accessing citizenship earlier rather than later, specifically with South American countries or the ex-colonies in general, like, for example, the Philippines. Okay, so let me make sure that you can see my screen. I believe you can. So let's start from the beginning. So perfect, thank you. Okay, so Holborn Pass. We've got the Golden Visa for Spain here. Okay, so as I mentioned before, this visa has been introduced in 2013. I would like to remind everybody that we might not have too much time left. So when we start this webinar, it would be good to have more information to be sent to you in order to speed up the process and to avoid any unpleasant surprises by the Spanish government. All right, so here we go. This is what we're talking about. So the Spanish Golden Visa is a visa that gives you the visa-free travel within the Schengen area. So you can travel around Europe, the European Union, without any problems within the 26 countries. There is no minimum stay requirement, which is something that is very important because in some cases there are countries that do require, in order to maintain active the visa, the fact that you must be living in the country for a certain number of days or weeks, depends, or in some cases even some months. This third part is very important. It's a lifetime residency, which means that the visa pretty much does not expire. As I said before, it does lead to permanent residency. But what is important to know is that to keep it active, you must keep the investment open. Okay. Then obviously once you get to residency and then ultimately a citizenship, then you can obviously change your mind on that and sell it back. And again, Andres, you can help us with that. But obviously it's something to keep in mind about that part. Now, talking about the benefits, once you and your family will be getting a visa here to Spain, the important thing to know is that you start living a life here normally in Spain. So your children can go to school, they can access the public system, you can access the public health system as well. So there won't be any differences between you and an actual Spanish citizen from the very beginning. As it says here, there is a pathway to European citizenship. Now, European citizenship per se doesn't actually exist. There's no European passport, but I mean, obviously there's a passport for Spain that forms part of the European Union, and that is what people usually aim at. And you can get that residency first, and then move on to citizenship. Now, there's also aspects regarding the tax part, and probably, obviously, this part would be important to discuss with one of the financial advisors at Holborn. But I mean, Spain does have a favorable treatment, and probably good to know that it doesn't have a global income tax, or anyway, not at this stage. So that's also something to keep in mind for the future. Okay, so let's get into more specifics here. So first of all, as I mentioned before, for this visa, then there's no specific characteristics that you as the applicant need to satisfy. Okay, so we're not focusing on the type of work that you perform. We're not focusing on the age, other than being over 18 years of age. Okay, that's important to know. Okay, so we have to be over 18 years of age. You must be a non-citizen of Europe, obviously, because otherwise it would not make sense. So we're talking about people who are interested in a visa of this sort who come from outside of Europe. And be in good health, I would add this part as well, plus have no criminal record. Okay, this is obviously something that is very important. It means that if there are any issues about this part, it would be important to understand this, maybe book an appointment in order to understand what has happened, and we can discuss this with Andres as well, in order to understand specifically what may have been the previous issues, in order to understand if this could create some problems when it comes to the evaluation of the visa application. Now, the last part here, which is probably the most important part in order to trigger this type of visa, is the qualifying investment. Now, for Spain, and specifically for the Spanish Golden Visa, we're talking about the fact that to be eligible, you must make a specific investment. I'll leave this to Andres later. Just very briefly, you can make different type of investments because it doesn't have to be one specific type of investment. The minimum amount to make an investment is of 500,000 euros. It can be higher depending on the type of investment stream. And again, I'll leave that to you and this later. But just to make sure that we've got it clear from the beginning, there has to be a qualifying investment, and that investment has to be done by one person only. That person will be the investor, and then the rest of the family will be added on as the rest of the family as included in the visa application, and will benefit from the visa. So we're not making two investments or four investments if it's four family members. It's just one. Therefore, it will be 500,000 to start, and then the rest of the family will be added on the visa. Okay, as I said here, sorry, mistake with the page. So who's eligible? As I mentioned just now, so the spouse or the legal partner. This part as well is also important to keep in mind. It is important to talk specifically about the eligibility of being a couple. So ideally, we're talking about within the Spanish law, we're talking about a married couple. The recognition of the de facto registration certificate is something that can be done, and we can do it with your help, Andres, as well. So if we're talking about a family where you're not legally married, we can still make you eligible as a de facto couple civil union, but obviously there's more technicalities about this part that will have to be understood before going ahead. Now here we've got the children. We've got the children that can be included in the visa. No question about children who are under 18 years of age. If we're talking about people who are over 18 years of age, then that's a different story. Doesn't mean that it can't happen. It can, and it does. By all means, we do that regularly. But obviously, it's important to show that in that case, that family member is financially dependent. Okay, so it's not autonomous, or anyway, it's not. It doesn't have its own family at the same time, obviously, because in that case, that would be a different story. It would be a new applicant. And also, which is something quite interesting and something very useful to know, there is the possibility of including within the visa your parents. So if you want to bring along your parents, you can do that as well. And in this case, in order to include your parents or your partner's parents, they would have to be over 65 years of age. Okay, so that's the minimum age requirement for the rest of the family. Okay, so now getting into more details about the investment, as I mentioned before. So for the Spanish Golden Visa, we're looking at basically three options. And we've got the minimum of the 500,000. We're talking about real estate. We've got very interesting options here. And Andres, again, will be explaining some options here. There's a few possibilities of getting some of that amount back, which is obviously something very interesting. That makes the investment even more interesting for everybody. There's also the possibility of making investments into the funds, into specific funds that are obviously governmental funds, bonds typically, and we can also make a bank deposit as well. And in that case, it would be of at least €1 million we're talking about. And sorry, for the bonds instead, we're talking about 2 million. Now, obviously, again, this is something more to be focused on a financial investment advisor. I believe that the third option of the minimum of 2 million in bonds is usually probably not the best option in terms of return. If we're looking at some sort of an investment that gives you and your family the possibility of accessing an alternative residency, additional residency, and therefore later on additional citizenship as well. But at the same time, we need to make it match with something that could be interesting for your portfolio as well. So obviously, probably bonds would not have that interesting return for you and your family. So therefore, I believe focusing on the first option is definitely what makes it more interesting and more better for everybody in terms of what we're going to be talking about during this webinar. Okay, so I'll leave it to you for the following minutes for now. Obviously, I'll jump in and you tell me. But I mean, Andres, I think it would be good for you to explain to me and to everybody, please, all the investment options that we've got, and especially maybe focus on the hotel investment option as well, because given the short time that we have, or we might have at this stage before this visa might be either cancelled or amended, it would be important to just one note here. I think that what would the clients be looking at is not necessarily looking into a property to go and live in. Obviously, at some stage, yes, but to make it happen within a short time, we do have options of buying into, making an investment that is ready to go. And those are the options that Andres will get into that make it eligible for the law and eligible for the visa. And then after the investments, Andres will move forward with the actual visa stage. That is the part that is connected after the investment is made.
Of course. So thank you, Ricardo, for the introduction. I think it's really good. So first, I'm going to talk about the real estate investment, which honestly is the most common investment. 95% of the golden visas that Spain has, all of them go to real estate. Why is that? Well, it's the minimum investment by much, and the yields are the best ones, So it's 95% of the golden visas go for real estate in Madrid, Barcelona, Valencia, Malaga, or the Balearic Islands. So the minimum investment has to have 500,000 euros. You need to buy something that is going to give you a deed that's going to show that you invested 500,000 euros. With this, you're going to be able to get the golden visa. What type of properties can you get? Well, Spain is really flexible with this. There's no type of properties you can get. There's no minimum amount. You can mix all type of properties, all type of investments that you can, as long as you get a deed. We have seen here people buying parking spaces, buying hotels, buying residential houses, buying shops, any type of real estate. As long as the deed is over 500,000, that's it. Well, there's also something that clients ask. It's if I already have a house there in Spain, can I get the golden visa? Well, of course. If the house you bought it's over 500,000 and you bought it over 2013, you can still apply for the golden visa and get it like this, with this. So, since Spain is really flexible with type of real estate you can get, we usually see more commercial people buying more commercial spaces here in Spain. Why is that? Yields are better, easier to manage, and I think these two and transfer taxes are way, way, way lower for commercial spaces. So I think with these 3 points, it's usually usual that people choose commercial instead of residential. Residential is more for people that want to move here and actually live in the house. So with all this, we have several other type of investments that are ready to go, as Ricardo mentioned. There might be some changes to the Golden Visa law in September. So it's better to be on the safe side if you want to pursue this option. We have a hotel that we're developing right now in Madrid. This hotel is focused right now in Golden Visa investors. It's a really good option for investment. It has a guaranteed yield of 3% per year, but it's pay upfront for 10 years. So with a $500,000 investment, the yield will be 3% will be 15,000, but since it's paid for 10 years in advance, when the investment you can get 150 from the moment you invest. So this brings down the total investment from 500,000 to 350. And with this option, you can still get the golden visa. It lets you diversify your portfolio. So I think it's a really interesting one. If you want more information about this, I'm more than happy to meet with you and Ricardo after the webinar and explain all the benefits, all the brand. It's operated by a really, really, really big brand here in Spain. So I think it's honestly worth taking a look at. So this is for the real estate side, guys. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you, Andres. Okay. And so within this part, if I can ask, this is also the, you mentioned about the fact that the investment is 500, but at the same time, they can get back a certain amount once the investment is completed, correct? Yeah, so when does that happen exactly? So that, who's listening, that's because this is usually one of the typical questions that we have, so that, they know if it's after the visa has been issued or if it's before the investment is complete, or once the investment is completed, but before the visa.
Yeah, so the 150, it's paid back after the deed is issued, So once you do the total payment of the deed, so the hotel room, because you're going to own a hotel room in a hotel in Madrid, once you buy this hotel room and the deed is transferred to your name, 1 week after this, with deed is transferred to your name, you're going to get the funds transferred to an account that you choose, that you give us. Oh, this is the hotel that we're developing right now. We are doing it with Verbo Capital, and as I mentioned before, it's in Madrid, which is the Canillejas district. I think you have to go down to the almost, so we can see
So just to give you an idea, or more than an idea of, here we go, it should be at this page, right?
This is renders of the hotel.
Exactly. So this is the project, it's the eligible project. And in this case, these type of investments are the ones that you were mentioning about the return, right? So these ones are really eligible. That would be the investment of 500. Then once the deed is obtained, then there will be the client will be getting back the 150, and that's when we will be able to go ahead with the visa. So at the end of the day, it's not 500; it makes it 350. So that's the amount to be invested. Now these, we thought we would share some details about the project here. That we got the
I think it's it's like 25. I think something like that. The project, a little bit more, a little bit more. I think it's 28 then, or 29. So many renders.
Yes, there's a lot of information here, and obviously
that's the project overview, guys. So
here we go. Yes.
As I mentioned before, so we have a 3% yield paid upfront for 10 years of operation, which makes it 150, but it's upfront. As I mentioned before, commercial taxes, transfer taxes are way lower in commercial spaces, so it's a better option for investors in doing an investment, because when you're investing 500,000, 1 million, and you get 7% less in transfer tax, that's 70,000. So that's money that's worth looking into. So the other benefit of this project is the VAT. It's paid by the Benrock, you know. Since this is a new property, a commercial space, the transfer tax is taxed with VAT. The VAT is 21%, and this VAT is financed by Benrock. Why is that? Because like these are really huge benefit. Okay, because the VAT actually is refundable, but it's refundable more or less 1 year and a half after after the hotel is completed and stuff like that. So we don't want clients to be having problems with this and that and all that. So we're gonna pay it for you guys, and we're gonna get refunded in 2 years and a half, something like that. Once we can, you know. So there's also a really good benefit that I think makes this investment a safe investment. It's the buyback option. So this, as I mentioned before, this hotel is operated by Soho Boutique, which is a really big Spanish brand here. They have over 48 hotels here in Spain. They have a presence in Italy. They have presence in Portugal. So they're really big, and they want to be the sole owners of the hotel after 10 years, you know, because they're going to be rent. So after 10 years, they're going to do a guarantee buyback for 500,000 for 10 years of operation. So in the moment you invest 500,000, you get 150 back. And after 10 years of operations, you're going to get a buyback for 500,000, which is like a safe investment. You know, you get the residency. The project is backed up by Soho Boutique, by Benrock, everybody. So it's a really good investment. And last but not least, you're going to get 7-day complimentary stay in the Soho Boutique they have here in Spain every renewal period. So year 1 to 3, you're going to get a free week. Year 3 to 8, and year 8 to 10, you're going to get free week. So you're going to get 3 free weeks in these 10 years. The hotel is already being built in Madrid, and we're expecting it completion by Q4 next year. So I think it's a broad overview of the project, guys. Anything you need, we can discuss it after the webinar. We're more than happy to meet.
Perfect. Thank you, Andres. Okay, great. Okay, so as I was saying before, this, especially given the short time frame that we have, this option is the cheapest option by all means, given also the buyback amount. But at the same time, it's one of those situations where you are not risking to spend months and months in finding some sort of a property that could be useful for where to live. Obviously, it depends on the interest of what the person and the family wants to do. But if you want to speed up the process on a visa of this sort, which at the end of the day is quite quick anyway, regardless of the fact that the visa might be cancelled or not, after the transfer of the title deed, the actual visa per se only takes 3 weeks. So with an implicit with the silence from the Ministry of Immigration here in Spain, and that's when the visa is actually issued. So obviously you'll be looking at the possibility of coming over to Spain very, very soon. Now, if you don't mind, Andres, I'll go back to the other part of the file so that we could run through maybe the other options as well. They might be not that interesting, but at the same time, who's listening might be interested in understanding the way it works and the differences, so that we can go through the investment option number 2 and 3, just to outline a few things, and even just briefly, but just to understand the way they work in terms of what can be considered an eligible investment.
Of course, I'm more than happy to. So then we have investment options like number 2 and number 3. So the first option is investment 1 million euros, either in a bank deposit here or a Spanish company. Bank deposit, it's something that we have seen in the past. Is really safe. The thing is, you're not gonna get almost no return in your money. Yields here are really bad with bank deposits. So if you want your money to be there, it's perfect. You can have it here in a bank and you can get the golden visa with this. You cannot take the money out in a period of time, depending how much time you want to stay here. So it's like it's like a bond, but with less returns. And with the Spanish company, this is more popular. But it becomes a little bit more complicated, more tricky, because similar to other visas, like we have seen for investment companies in EB5 program in the States, you have to have a plan, a plan. The company has to have a plan, it's going to create jobs, it has to be approved by the government. So there's something that we can still do. But it's not like, okay, I'm going to invest in, this company, you're going to buy it and it's going to keep the golden visa. Okay. That can work, but we need to look at what company you're gonna buy. It's gonna new jobs. It's gonna get approved. It's gonna get approved. Where's the money coming? Let's try a little bit more in depth. It has to be more by case. Last option is a €2 million deposit in bonds. If I'm being honest, in over 10 years, I think less than 0.5% of all the golden visas we have in Spain, in both the country, are government bonds. And this is because, well, 2 million, it's way too much money. You compare it with 500,000 to real estate. And returns on government bonds are not that good. It's for a whole country. So mostly more people decide just to, instead of buying 2 million in government bonds, just buy 3 or 4 properties or 2 properties here in Spain and just rent them out and, well, make more money. For the 1 million deposit, the bank deposits, it's really straightforward. Also with bonds, for Spanish companies, I mentioned before, it's case by case. We are more than capable to help you guys with any type of investment you want to do. Just we need to do how you want to do it and how fast it is. My recommendation is always real estate. Lowest investment, higher yields, and it's faster. Especially if you choose one of the options we are think for golden visa investors. Getting the deed is really fast, doing a deposit really fast. We have seen people getting the golden visa here in 2 months and a half, 3 months, honestly, if they're fast getting all the documentation we need. So the fastest and easiest option, the real estate, guys.
Exactly. Thank you, Andres. And obviously, it's important to mention the fact that when it comes to, for example, a business plan, so one of the options of starting a business over in Spain, this can be subject to subjectivity. So the actual, point of view of the case officer and understanding how certain things can work, or if they believe this is a viable type of business that you want to start and go ahead with. So obviously, you can increase the chances of having a visa not necessarily accepted, or delay the process in having somebody evaluating and asking for more information. As you said, instead, when it comes to the bonds, obviously, they're not very interested in terms of return. Reason why, again, we return to the fact that the first option is the best option by all means, because it's cheaper. At the same time, it does give you a return, but also it's more tangible, and it gives you the possibility of coming to Spain and start leading a life over here without in a very short time. Okay, so Andres, thank you very much for this. And now moving forward in terms of timeline. So what happens next is that once you and your family you have found the suitable investment, then the next step, apart from obviously making the investment per se, will be getting into more specifics about the actual paperwork of the visa application. So at Holborn, and together with the help of Orients as well, we will be taking care of the entire process of the application. That continues after the investment is done. Once the deed is transferred into your name, so once the investment has been made, that's when we can go ahead with the actual bureaucracy of the application. So in the meantime, with the power of attorney, we can do this from a distance. So you don't have to come to Spain necessarily. If you want to come to Spain, we can do it, obviously with you in presence, but otherwise we can also do it from a distance. There will be some paperwork involved. So we'll have to open your tax file number here. We'll have to open a bank account in Spain as well in order to actually make you exist for certain aspects of the laws here in Spain. That's when we then go ahead with the actual paperwork of the application for the visa. Now, for the visa, we go back to what I mentioned before. And obviously, I'd like to share this part here. So that shows what we will do and what is the timeline of events. Okay, so we've got the investment completion. And that's when, as Andres mentioned before, that's when the deed is transferred into the name of the investor. That's when we have everything already prepared behind the line, so that we can actually prepare the visa application and submit the application. Okay, so that's when we move forward with the visa application. As I was mentioning before, while it could take some time, it obviously depends on the time of the year. Probably right now in August over here in Europe, certain things can slow down a little bit when it comes to transferring the property. So that could take some weeks. But when that has happened, and when that's done, the actual visa application takes 3 weeks to then be implicitly accepted. So that means that obviously after that you can come to Spain. And that's when we will be activating the visa. Now, keep in mind that there are additional aspects about this. So we'll have to, I mean, not us directly, but obviously the Spanish government will have to, you'll have to undergo a biometrics visit. Okay, so that can be, that will have to be done necessarily in order to make the visa active by all means. And that's when, at the end, we'll have the golden visa issued. Okay, so that's how pretty much the timeline completes, and that's when pretty much it finishes in terms of the first part of this entire process that comes to an end. You and your family will be obtaining the visa, and then after that, the next stage starts. So what does this mean? First of all, it means that you will not have to, during this visa, you will not have to, first of all, be living in Spain necessarily. Okay, so this is important to know. Obviously, there's different needs out there. So there could be an actual need of willing to come over here to Spain and start a life here in Spain. But at the same time, you may not want to come to Spain, but you want to have a permanent residency or anyway, a golden visa to start for other reasons. And what is important to know is that there's no minimum requirement of staying in Spain during this visa. This visa remains active throughout the time, as long as I mentioned before, the investment remains active. Now, 5 years after, what happens is that you and your family become eligible to potentially apply for the actual permanent residency. Okay, so the golden visa, we like to call it as a visa that is under a few conditions. That's not yet a full permanent residency visa. It becomes a permanent residency visa after 5 years of being issued. That's when, starting from the 6th year onwards, that's when certain requirements come into the picture in order to then apply for citizenship 5 years after. Okay, so the end of the project here is after 10 years to obtain citizenship. But as I mentioned before, residency is usually your ultimate goal. There are exceptions, and Andres, obviously, for this part, obviously, it would be good to have your confirmation on this side as well. So this means that there are exceptions in terms of obtaining not only permanent residency, but actually obtaining citizenship through certain agreements that Spain has in force with certain countries. And specifically, we're talking about countries that form part of South America mainly, and the ex-colonies in general. In this case, 2 years after having obtained the golden visa, that's when you can become eligible for citizenship. Please keep in mind, even though it's not written in the law, okay, but we're talking about this with Andres some weeks ago, when it comes to actually becoming eligible for citizenship, even though the law doesn't actually tell you how long you must be living in Spain for, so it doesn't require an actual number of days being present, we typically advise to be present for at least 6 months in the last year. Okay, that's important to be aware of. Just because the way you are going to be evaluated is to show that you've got ties and you've got an interest in staying in Spain after, once you're applying for citizenship. So obviously, this is something to keep in mind, especially depending obviously on your nationality, depending on your circumstances. Sooner or later, once you get to the stage of wanting to apply for citizenship here in Spain, then at some stage the presence in the country would be something to keep in mind for the citizenship, not for keeping the golden visa active and not for the permanent residency either, if you want to keep the residency open, the permanent residency open, and not necessarily aim at citizenship here in Spain. Okay, so to close with a few details here. Obviously, the language here in Spain is Spanish. Apart from obviously other dialects and everything, and within every area of Spain, we're talking about currency here in euro. Capital is Madrid. The country is quite a big country for here in Europe. It is a beautiful country by all means. I've been here back from Australia for some time, and it does change a lot depending on where you want to go. So obviously there's the big cities like Madrid and Barcelona, which are obviously the main metropole. But at the same time, there is a full normal life within the southern part of Spain. So the Andalusia area, like over here in Malaga and Marbella, at the same time, Sevilla as well. There's the northern part of Spain, which is obviously very, very beautiful and also very interesting for other economic aspects as well. So it's a very diverse country on different aspects, and obviously it's a great place to live and to have your family over here and to live a more than a normal life, a very nice life over here in Spain. Okay, so this is I would say mainly the main details here about the Spanish Golden Visa. And as I mentioned before, here at Holborn, we'll be able to help you with everything. I'm not too sure if you, Andres, would like to add something or would like to accept some questions eventually if you've got any. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, guys, I will recommend you that is there any doubt you have, any questions you have, anything you need, please reach out. Ricardo and me are always happy to help you and answer anything you need. This information we just gave you, it's a broad information. We can look at your case by case, look what you need, give you the best recommendation for you, depending on your family, your needs, your wants, anything. So please feel free to reach out. We're more than happy to help you. We can schedule a call, a meeting, anything you need. They're here for you guys.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andres. And yes, as you just said, this entire process involves two stages. One is the investments and the other one is the visa aspects. Obviously, they're all linked together. So whenever you are interested, what we do is we evaluate everything at the same time. Okay, so we'll be understanding your initial characteristics to make sure that you are eligible and that there's no unpleasant surprises after the investment is made. So obviously we check that and we understand that yourself and the rest of your family are eligible for that part. And at the same time, while we're focusing on the law and the regulations from the Spanish laws for this type of visa, we will be looking at the best and most suitable investment option. Myself, I'm the person of reference here for Spain at Holborn, and Andres is the person of reference at Orient. So obviously one or the other will be happy to assist you. So thank you for that. And yes, as I mentioned before, if there are questions, happy to add some more information to this. Or otherwise, we will be happy to share this video on the web, and then we'll get back to you very soon.